A Search in Vedic India, Chapter 4, Ashram of Premswaroop. It was 4 a.m. when the flight landed in Bangalore and 5 a.m. by the time before he cleared immigration and collected his baggage. He booked a taxi at the airport to go to the address in Parmeswarananda's letter. Parmeswarananda gave his first letter to Kalyan, an essential administrative officer in Premswaroop's ashram located in the suburbs of Bangalore. Premswaroop is a famous spiritual guru in India. Albert alighted the taxi at the office of Premswaroop ashram, which is located in a vast area extending to hundreds of acres. He entered the office and told them that he wanted to meet Kalyan. They requested him to get seated and called someone on the phone. After the call, they asked Albert for all his details. He told them that he had a letter from Swami Parameswarananda. On relaying this to the concerned parties, they allotted accommodation for him in the guest house, and he was accompanied there by an attendant. After making some entries in the register, the attendant informed him that Kalyan would come in an hour, and meanwhile, if he wanted, he could visit the cafeteria nearby and finish breakfast. Albert took a shower and visited the cafeteria, which was very easy to find. To his surprise, many Western dishes were also available along with several Indian snacks. He found many Americans and Europeans there and had several exchanges. During these exchanges, they informed him that Premswaroop would visit the prayer hall in the morning and evening to give darshan. After he returned to the guest house, the attendant took him to a big hall where he met Kalyan. He gave him Swami Parameswarananda's letter. Kalyan enquired about Albert. After reading the letter, though the questions are simple, yours is a big project, he said with a smile. Do you think that Premswaroop will answer my questions? Asked Albert. For that, you must first meet him, isn't it? Remarked Kalyan. How is that? Doesn't he meet everybody? Is it difficult even if you suggest? Albert inquired innocently. Since you have no idea about this ashram and how it functions, it may appear a bit strange to you. Here everybody does what the Swami says. Nobody can suggest anything to him, including whom to meet, etc. However, you should not be disappointed. Since you are enquiring into important areas and not worldly matters, I am sure that he will meet you and answer your questions, explained Kalyan. He then called an attendant and said, Rajaya, ask Vimala to see me now. Rajaya went out and returned, accompanied by a young lady in 5 minutes. Though Albert had seen many Indian ladies in the Bay Area, he did not see young Indian ladies in saris. The lady who came with Rajaya looked lovely in a green sari. She must be in the early 20s, and her bright eyes further added to her charm. He noticed all this in just a few seconds. Kalyan introduced Albert to Vimala and briefly explained his mission. He asked Vimala to take Albert to the assembly hall and indicated where both of them should wait for Swami. Come, let's go. It is time for the Swami to come to the hall. Saying this, she asked Albert to follow her. Both of them entered the assembly prayer hall. Albert was astonished at what he saw there. The hall was big enough to accommodate at least a few thousand. It was like an amphitheatre stadium where Michael Jackson and the likes would play. The prayer hall was full of people seated in various sections and perfect rows. There were several volunteers guiding people. Vimala took him to a place near the stage where a big chair was placed and decorated with silk robes. No volunteer objected to Vimala and on the other hand guided her to the special enclave near the stage where some other people were already seated. It was evident to him that this enclave was meant for some special people. Within a few minutes after they sat in the enclave, A short man with a silk robe from shoulders to feet slowly emerged from some inner chambers. The moment he was spotted, there was an unspecific buzz in the crowd, and all the eyes were on him. The Swami has arrived, Vimala whispered to Albert. Swami first swung by the ladies' section. The ladies who were seated in the first row were bending down to pay respects at the feet of Swami. Some people were offering some folded papers to him. While he took a few papers from some, he ignored others. Vimala explained that it is called a Padanamaskar. People consider it to be a rare and a great opportunity to have such a Padanamaskar. What is so special in it? Everybody who is sitting in the first row is getting that opportunity, it seems, remarked Albert. There are many stages before coming to the first row. The process starts at 6 a.m. There is no guarantee that all those who assemble at 6 a.m. would get an opportunity to sit in the first row, though. There is a lot of process involved in the selection, and there are no guarantees that folks in the first row would get an opportunity for Padanamaskar. The Swami would stop in front of a few folks, and they would be the only ones to get the Padanamaskar. Other people, though sitting nearby, should not move from their seats, explained Vimala. Oh, there is a lot of process for this. What are those papers they are giving to him? Albert asked curiously. If they have a wish or a problem, they write it on a piece of paper and give it to him. If he takes the paper, they believe that their problem would be solved or their will fulfilled. If it doesn't, then it was obvious that it would be the opposite, replied Vimala. I see. I would like to try this. But oh, wait, I don't have any paper or a pen with me, Albert exclaimed. Don't worry. I anticipated that you would need a pen and a paper, and I brought it with me, said Vimala, taking out pen and paper from her bag. Albert wrote something on the paper, folded it, and held it in his hand. They noticed that the Swami was slowly moving in the ladies' wing. He stopped in front of a lady and had few exchanges. Suddenly he waved his hand and produced a powder-like thing and dropped it into the hands of that lady. Vimala explained that occasionally the Swami materializes sacred powder and gives to devotees. Oh, it's a kind of miracle, exclaimed Albert. Swami came near the rows where Albert and Vimala were sitting. He signaled some people to go inside. Vimala explained that the Swami asks some people to go to the interview room. Swami would have personal interviews with such people after the rounds here. Those who are called in are considered very lucky. Some people who have been coming here for several years are hoping to get a Padanamaskaram or personal interview. This personal interview with the Swami is by invitation only. When the Swami was passing by, Albert handed over the folded paper to the Swami. Swami took it with a smile. He ignored the paper offered by a person sitting beside Albert. After the Swami passed, Vimala remarked, since he took your paper, whatever you wrote on the paper would be fulfilled. But I wanted to have a personal talk with him, Albert said. That would be possible only if he invites you to the interview room. Persons like Kalyan could help to make you come up to this enclave only. As I said, some people could not make it even in 15 years, she said. Seeing the disappointment in Albert's face, she said again, do not worry. We will come here on all the days you are here. They came back to the guest house after the Swami went into his inner chambers. On the suggestion of Kalyan Vimala took Albert around the ashram. The ashram is running multi-specialty hospitals, schools and colleges, and a deemed university. All the institutions offer free services and are managed by volunteers who come from all over the country. The cafeteria offers food to inmates and all visitors at highly subsidized prices. Vimala explained that service activities are carried out by devotees in their hometowns as well. The next day also both of them went to the assembly hall again and waited in the same enclave near the stage. Premswaroop came as usual, and this time he stopped in front of Vimala, who took Padanamaskaram. He also looked at Albert and suggested to both of them to go to the interview room. In the interview room, there were more than 10 people. Swami came to the room after nearly an hour. He sat in a big chair. There were other chairs nearby. Swami called everyone in. Couples went in together. Swami talked to them and listened to what they had to say and asked. In some cases, he waved his hand and materialized either a ring or a chain and presented it to them. To Albert, these acts looked like magic, and he wondered how they could be done so quickly. Finally, the Swami called Albert and Vimala. Swami looked at Vimala and spoke to her very affectionately. Since you have completed masters, what are your plans? Will you do what I suggest? Albert was surprised at the affection with which the Swami spoke to Vimala. Without waiting for her reply, the Swami looked at Albert and said, "Now tell me, Albert, what do you want? After the death of your father David, questions like what is death, what happened to him, where he is now, and many other such queries have been bothering you. You want answers not based on a belief system. Are there any other questions?" "Yes, those are the questions. May I ask you a question?" asked Albert. "Yeah, you can ask," said the Swami with a smile. "How do you know my name and my father's name? I don't remember having mentioned that." "Oh, those things. I also do not know. They just happen without any effort from my side," said the Swami. Albert could see that the Swami was sincere and frank in his reply. Swami looked at Vimala and said, "You will get responses now to some of the questions you raised earlier. You listen carefully." And then he turned to Albert. "For your questions, the responses cannot be like 2 and 2 is 4, because the level required for what you want to know and your level are not the same." Albert was confused. "I know it requires explanation. The things you want to know about are at 2 levels. One is at a relative level and the other is at an absolute level. We will come to the absolute level later. Now, when you look at the sky above, you see it is blue. You see it in blue color because blue is scattered more than other colors as it travels at shorter, smaller waves. Even now there is sky between you and me, but it is not blue. Whether the blue sky you see is real or not depends on the absolute knowledge of the whole phenomena. Like that, at what level you want to know about death is important." "Pardon me, Swami, could you please tell me the difference between relative and absolute?" asked Albert. "Very good. Everything in the world is related. Observe these two statements. You are seeing me because I am here. You are here and that is why I am seeing you. Or to make it simpler, think about whether the tree emerges from the seed or whether the seed emerges from the tree. It is relative. You cannot find answers in the relative world unless you trace to the absolute. Now, in the case of seed and tree, the absolute is earth. What you see on the earth is found in both the seed and the tree. The difference is only in the form. To know information at a relative level, no special status is required. The sky is blue to you at a relative degree of understanding. But to know the real truth behind it, you might require special information and you should equip yourself to know that. Similarly, religious scriptures give you some information about the death, but no special status or knowledge is required to understand that. But if you want to know the absolute truth behind death, you have to be eligible to know that, like the special knowledge required to know the truth about the blue sky. Are you following what I am saying? Asked Swami. Yes, I am following. To know the real truth behind the death and after death, that is, over and above what religion says, I should equip myself to receive that, said Albert. He never knew that this kind of special analysis is required to know about anything. Moreover, what the Swami is saying was logical and scientific. Whoever answered him earlier on the subject, it appeared that they were speaking from books and not from their direct understanding. So, my doubts would not be cleared unless I make myself eligible to receive the knowledge, asked Albert. Another important thing, you want to know about one end of a thread. What about the other end? To know about death, you must also know about birth. Otherwise, it is incomplete. Both birth and death are relative like trees and seeds, is it not? Why should you be eligible to know the absolute truth? I will give you an example. If NASA wants to send somebody into space, do they spend everybody without testing physical fitness and imparting specialized training? Similarly, to understand certain spiritual truths, one must be eligible and ready for that. Otherwise, even if I tell you, it may not serve the purpose. Can you cut a big tree with a blunt axe? Have you seen how many thousands of people have been coming here seeking a personal interview with me? All kinds of people, business people, employees, housewives, etc. They all want to possess a blue sky. Politicians wish to reach higher positions, and business people want to increase their wealth. Employees want promotions. They are all people who want to possess the distant blue sky, ignoring the fact that all along they are in the sky and sky is all around them. They come here year after year to possess the blue sky. Such people must be eligible to know the real sky. If you fulfill their desires, do they get eligibility? Do they get eligibility if you materialize things and give them? After putting this question, Albert felt sorry, thinking whether he exceeded his limits in putting the question and showed it in his face. You have a genuine doubt. They are all in a stage where they do not know what would make them happy. On the other hand, they are in the pursuit of things which would make them unhappy. Their minds are in the stage of a blunt axe. The effort is to increase their eligibility to seek the truth that gives them real happiness. The intention behind materializing things probably needs explanation. The majority of people spend their lives in the vicious circle of joys and sorrows, and they do not think of coming out of that circle and do not make any attempt to seek permanent happiness. Unless their minds turn in that direction, the journey does not start. If you want to take a cow to a required destination, lot of effort is needed. But if you hold green grass in front of its face, it comes easily after it, and you can take the cow to the required destination. Materializing things is like that green grass. Many great people mentioned in their writings and speeches that serving man is serving God. But very few people bothered because there is no green grass there. But if I say it and ask them to take up many service activities with liberal donations, many people follow. You must have seen the level of activities going on in the ashram. Much more than this is being done by various regional centers all over the country. I never ask or seek donations for service activities, but the whole ashram was built on public contributions. Donations without expecting immediate quid pro quo benefit do better to people. So, you say that selfless service activities would make people eligible to know the absolute truth or secrets behind birth and death? Said Albert, trying to understand the logic revealed by the Swami. Yeah, that is the beginning. And there are other steps in the process, said Swami. An attendant came from inner chambers and brought 3 plates of fruit. He put one plate near the Swami and gave the others to Vimala and Albert. In the Swami's plate, there are only 2 or 3 pieces. It appeared that the attendant knew how much the Swami would take normally. The Swami took one piece from his plate and gave it to Vimala. Vimala took it with the utmost respect. Swami took the remaining with the most graceful movement of his fingers. Albert had never seen such a graceful act. Going into inner chambers, Swami said, "Come tomorrow, directly to this room. Let us discuss a few more things." Albert and Vimala returned to the guest house.